Küresel İşbirlikleri başlıklı oturumumuzu Birhan Bakanay beyefendi yönetecekler. Kendileri DEİK İş Konseyi Yönetim Kurulu üyesi ve aynı zamanda da Cenk Endüstri CEO'su. Birhan Bey, buyurun efendim, oturum sizlerin.
Değerli katılımcılar, hoş geldiniz. Sadece açılış kısmını Türkçe yapacağım. Konuklarımız çeşitli ülkelerden olduğu için geri kalan kısmında İngilizce devam edeceğim. Dear guests, welcome to the meeting. It is a quite important thing, and as I can see, a huge area is covered from Spain to Kazakhstan, and I think this team is great for talking about the subject. And in the beginning, I would like to start with Mr. Fontana, please.
Yes, good afternoon to everybody, and thanks for the invitation. So, shall I start?
Yeah, yes, please.
Okay. So, let me share my screen. Okay, please confirm that you can see the screen. Yep, okay, perfect. So, again, good afternoon to everybody. My name is Alessandro Fontana. I'm the association manager of Italcogen. And who is Italcogen? Italcogen is the Italian association of manufacturers and distributors of cogeneration plants and heat recovery plants. And we are an association inside the Anima Federation, which is the federation that since 1914 represents the mechanical industry in Italy. And we are also part of Confindustria, that is the greater federation in Italy, which represents the whole industry, the whole Italian industry. We are also members of Cogen Europe, and we just entered the new World Coalition as well. And our main activity is to promote the diffusion of cogeneration, of course, in every sector, and to keep in contact the members among them, and towards institutions such as Ministry or Authority of Energy, and so on. But let's proceed. We can see here just our members, in Italcogen members, and I will enter the heart of my presentation just with an overview of the current status of CHP in Italy, with some figures about production and CHP plant in Italy. But as an introduction, I'd like to show this slide, which outline in general the legal framework for CHP, because in Italy CHP has been defined as per European Directive 2004 number 8, which has been implemented with legislative decree number 20 of 2007, and two ministerial decrees of the Economic Ministry of Economic Development of 4th August 2011 and the 5th of September 2011. Well, the first one is important because it defines the high efficiency cogeneration as per directive number 8, the former directive. And the second one is important because it tells you the way to calculate the number of Y certificate you can get from your cogeneration plant. That these Y certificates are the main support mechanism for cogeneration in Italy. Well, I just also inserted here the regulation 2015 to number 2402, just because it's important to get the reference values as a benchmark to see if your CHP plant is higher efficiency or not. Well, let's have just an overlook at the production and, well, the gross demand of power in Italy. In Italy, the total demand is bigger than 300 terawatt hours. That's in 2019, and almost most of the demand is fulfilled by just production, almost 300 terawatt hours, and 2/3 of them are produced by thermoelectric plant, and the other by other energy sources, as you can see. So almost 200 terawatt hours. If we have a look at these terawatt hours, we can see that a little more than half of them are produced in cogeneration, from cogeneration plant, while the rest is produced by standard general thermoelectric plant. And again, looking at these 107 terawatt hours in 2019, we can see that a little bit more than 50% of them are generated in a certified high efficiency cogeneration plant, and the rest from standard CHP units. A quick look at the technologies. Well, according to the Italian TSO, that is Terna, the company, we have more than almost 6,000 plants, 5,674 using in 2019, and the most diffuse technology is internal combustion engine. Whereas the biggest generation capacity comes from a combined cycle. We can see that 90% in terms of number of units and 71% as per nominal capacity. We have here the average size of the plants, 127 megawatts for the combined cycle, and 3/4 of megawatt for internal combustion engine, followed by other technology. But maybe more interesting are the high efficiency plants that in 2018 were 1,865 units certified by the Ministry of Economic Development as high efficiency CHP plants. Again, the most diffuse technology is internal combustion engines, 90% of them of the total units, high efficiency unit. Again, combined cycle has the greater capacity, almost, let's say, more than 3/4 of the total, and the average size is roughly 1 megawatt for internal combustion engines and 163 for combined cycle. If we have a look then at the fuels used, we can see that this is the total input for all the plants, for all the 5,600 plants, okay, according to TSO. The most used fuel is natural gas, almost 82%, as you can see, followed by other fuels, other solid that are biomasses or waste. And you can see the oil and solid are almost not used. Special coal is nil to zero, the production, the CHP production from coal in Italy. How much energy can we save with cogeneration? Just the high efficiency cogeneration plant can have saved in 2018 1.5 million tons of oil equivalent, with an average PES, that is the primary energy saving, of 11.1%. And so to give just a quickly to have a quick outlook to the cogeneration sector in Italy. And talking about incentives, well, the most diffuse incentive, the main one, is the white certificate scheme. Well, how does it work, this scheme? If you have your CHP plant and your annual production year by year, you have to calculate your efficiency, check your primary energy saving. If your primary energy saving, according to the Directive 2004/8, is greater than 10% or zero for small CHP, that is small is lower than 1 megawatt of power, you can get a white certificate, and you get one certificate for each ton of oil equivalent that you save. Then the white certificates are issued to the producer. The benchmark is the regulation that I mentioned just before for separate production, and you can put your certificate to the market and be paid for the value they have on the market, or choose to have your certificate retired by GSC, that is the manager of energy system in Italy, is the company that manages all the support mechanism for renewables and CHP as well in Italy. And then you get money for your white certificate. For small plant, there is a coefficient that actually is not very useful, but you can get 40% more certificate than calculated for a plant below 1 megawatt. talking in generally, white certificate is a general scheme, has been created to promote all energy efficiency intervention in industry and all sector. And CHP can benefit of a special type of white certificate that is the CAR, it's so-called, so it means high efficiency cogenerazione alto rendimento, that is high efficiency cogeneration. Well, the official name of the white certificate should be energy efficiency certificate, TEE. You can also see TEE also, as well as CB, certificati bianchi, that is white certificate. This is a mechanism, this is a market mechanism, so the price of your certificate can vary a lot also in a market, and the market is under revision from we see last 2 years, and so it generated quite a volatility in the market, and you can see that the price has just rocketed from 100 of the previous euros for certificate in the previous year to almost 500 till the government just kept the price to 250 euros per certificate. So we are now very close to this price cap. And we have to say that we just received a draft of the new legislative decree regulating the mechanism, but the new targets are to achieve in energy efficiency are very low. So we expect the price of white certificate to fall maybe in the next month or year, and we will see. So we are not very optimistic now seeing the new draft of decree, but we will see what happened. So far, one certificate is 250 euros. And we will see in the future. Which future? Well, according to the figures given by the GSE, the Manager of Energy System, the potential at 2030 is quite huge for cogeneration. You can see the first column on the left is the actual situation at 2018, and you can see the blue part is the industry. This is the heat recovered in terawatt hours. And we can see that the technical potential that can be exploited is quite huge. You can almost double the capacity, that's more than double the capacity. And but for the financial point of view, we are limited to 45. That is still a big increase in cogeneration. And we reckon that cogeneration, well, the capacity could be increased by 6 gigawatts in the next 10 years. If you look at the green block is residential, we can see that there is a huge potential from the technical point of view, but the real potential from the economical point of view is almost nil, also for the tertiary sector. This is because there is still a main barrier in Italy for cogeneration in the dwellings. Because if you install a cogeneration system in your block of flats, let's say, and want to sell your energy to the tenants, if you're not in a one-to-one configuration, so it means that there is just one producer that sells to just one customer. If it's not this case, you have to pay the system charge from of the whole energy you produce, as if the energy would be withdrawn from the grid. So this makes CHP for block of flats is not viable from the economical point of view. It is something that must surely change in the future. So this is really hampering cogeneration in the residential part. And just going to the conclusion of my presentation, we can see here some curves in this diagram. This is made, there is a Italcogen assessment made with Polytechnic of Milano, the University of Milano. And this is the market volume that we expect in the next few years, starting from 2018. We can see both dotted and solid lines. Well, these lines are before COVID-19, and the solid lines are after COVID-19. We see 3 scenarios. The green ones are optimistic scenarios. So if the new legal framework will be supporting cogeneration. We foresee an increase of the market from, let's say, almost 500 millions to more than 600 millions of euros. In this scenario, we will see a modest increase in the volume of the market volume, whereas a tied scenario, maybe if for example, the white certificate scheme will be not effective in the next year, we foresee a decrease in the market. And this is also a first estimation of what happened because of the COVID. So since many investments have been postponed in the future, we have estimated a losses of 20% of the market in 2020. And that's what our forecast, let's say, for next 5 years. This is all, just the last slide with the contact of the president, vice president, and my contact if you need more information about Italcogen. And thank you for watching and listening.
Thank you, Mr. Fontana. Your country is not only producing or using the cogeneration, but also your country is an important equipment supplier for cogeneration plants. So Italy is something like a hotspot for cogeneration, especially in our area.
Yes, I have to say that many people look at Italy thinking at fashion and food, but we have to say that the mechanical sector is bigger than food and luxury or fashion. So we are quite strong in mechanical industry.
Still your main product is pizza. So maybe the second one could be cogeneration. Okay, so let's continue with Mr. Magsud, please. And I would like to inform you that please turn off your microphones if you are not speaking right at the moment, please. So let's listen to Mr. Magsud.
Yes, hi. Good afternoon, everybody. It's indeed a great pleasure to be among these distinguished speakers, especially present energy portfolio of Azerbaijan. I just have a quick comment. If you don't mind, I'm going to turn off my camera because my Zoom is acting a little bit. I don't want it to be break in the middle of the presentation. But first, let me bring up the... First, I'm going to try to give you overall general overview of Azerbaijan economy and later dive into energy sector. Starting with oil and gas, and then later go into power sector, such as electricity, and later renewable. First, the Republic of Azerbaijan is the biggest country among the other South Caucasus states according to its territory, number of population, rich fuel, energy, and other resources. Azerbaijan, located in the Southern Caucasus, became a major energy player after restoring its independence in 1991. The country's territory covers about 86,600 square kilometers, borders with Russia, Georgia, Iran, Turkey, and Armenia. The population of Azerbaijan is about 10 million, where 53% of this population resides in urban area. Azerbaijan has undergone significant economic transformation since its independence in 1991, with its large oil and gas reserve pushing its strong growth in the 90s and late 20s. Azerbaijan is considered as an upper middle income country with a gross domestic product per capita at purchasing power parity of $18,600 US, representing about 43% of the EU 28. Azerbaijan GDP grew by 2.3% in 2019, but saw a fall in 2020 due to the lack of outbreak of COVID. But it's expected to increase about 0.1% to 1% in 2021, according to IMF. Oil exports have constituted the main revenue source for the economic development of the country since its independence. During 2008 to 2017, around decade, 90% of all the energy investment were related to the extraction of hydrocarbon, and only 9% to the development of electricity sector, including renewable. Among the CIS countries, Azerbaijan ranked 25th among 190 economies in the 2019 ease of doing business rate. As I mentioned, I will first give you just a brief background of oil and gas sector in Azerbaijan, looking at production, consumption, export, because if you're talking about Azerbaijan, you cannot dismiss this sector. And it's in fact the backbone of the power and other energy sector in the country. The Caspian Sea region is one of the oldest oil producing area in the world and is an increasingly important source of global energy production. The area has significant oil and natural gas reserve from both offshore deposits in the Caspian Sea itself and onshore field in the Caspian Bays. Hence, this has made Azerbaijan a major crude oil and natural gas producer. Because of this large carbohydrate production, it has one of the highest energy self-sufficient ratio in the world. Its energy production is more than 4 times its energy demand. The country ranks about 20th in the world for its proven oil reserve and 24th for its oil production. Proven oil reserve of Azerbaijan about 7 billion barrel, which is mainly in the Caspian Sea offshore. Equally, Azerbaijan ranks 27th for the natural gas reserve and 32nd for the natural gas production. An estimated gas reserve is 2.1 trillion cubic meter. And according to the latest data, in 2019, 35.5 million tons of oil and 24.5 BCM of natural gas has been produced. And in the consumption side, as mentioned, Azerbaijan meets its energy demand through domestic production, which relied on the extraction of the country's hydrocarbon reserve, namely oil and gas. Due to growing economy, domestic production, both in oil and gas, has increased. To be exact, the consumption of oil production on the domestic market increased about 45% over the last decade. Azerbaijan energy demand in general is about 14.4 million tons of oil equivalent in 2018, which is roughly about the country of Ireland in Europe. And due to this surplus, Azerbaijan has managed to build various gas and oil pipelines that are facing to west to reach to the western and world market. To be specific, Azerbaijan exports 5 times its own total energy consumption. An example of those oil pipeline project, which you can see on the right side, which are the Baku-Novorossiysk pipeline, Baku-Supsa, Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan pipelines. And in the gas sector, when it comes to gas sector, although Azerbaijan has historically been an oil producer, its significance in the region is growing as a gas producer and exporter. The export of natural gas increases from 33% of total product in 2008 to 50% in 2019. The natural gas upstream sector in Azerbaijan is mainly concentrated in the Shah Deniz field, which is located in the deep water shelf of the Caspian Sea. Shah Deniz is the largest gas and condensate field in Azerbaijan with over 1 trillion BCM of gas and over 2 billion barrel condensate. Currently, Azerbaijan gas from Shah Deniz is being exported to Turkey and Europe through recently completed gas pipeline project in the Southern Gas Corridor. And this Southern Gas Corridor project, you can see on the right lower side of your screen. This is this giant project that opens up a new supply route for energy to reach Europe all the way from the Caspian Sea. The project consists of 3 pipelines, each being a major project of its own, such as South Caucasus Pipeline, TANAP, and Trans-Anatolian Pipeline. The project delivers about 6 BCM to Turkey and 10 BCM to Italy, European gas market. This was our oil and gas in brief. Now let's switch to power sector, and I'm sure this is the most interesting part for the attendees. And the country currently has about 7,516 megawatt of total installed capacity. This is dominated by thermal power, which consists about 80%. The Azerbaijan thermal power plant is the largest power plant in the country with capacity of 2,400 megawatt. Currently, it's being refurnished to meet industry design requirements. The remaining thermal power plants are modern, mostly operated on combined circle gas turbine technology. Among renewables, hydropower has the highest installed capacity, followed by wind, biomass, and solar photovoltaics. And in the electricity production and export, taking into account that there's no nuclear or coal-fired power generation in the country, natural gas remains the main source for the production of electricity and heat energy. Azerbaijan generates 26 billion kilowatt of electricity annually, which is produced mainly by the thermal power plant that operates on natural gas and small amount produced by hydroelectric power plants. Non-hydro renewables accounts for less than 1%. The largest consumer of electricity in the country has been the residential sector. It must be noted that Azerbaijan has 100% electrification rate. According to the report by the World Economic Forum Global Competitiveness Index, Azerbaijan ranks second in the world in terms of access to electricity. However, despite its large generating potential, losses in the energy transmission system still remains. The 2016 strategic roadmap for utilities development set a goal to reduce losses from 10% to 6% in Baku, and Baku is the capital city, and from 12% to 8% in the region of the country by 2020. As the production exceeds domestic demand, the surplus electricity is exported to neighboring countries. And according to the latest statistic, out of 26 billion kilowatt of produced electricity, 24.7 billion kilowatt of it has been domestic use, and about 1,150 kilowatt per hour has exported. And exporting countries are the neighboring ones, which are Iran, Georgia, Turkey, and Russia. When it comes to heating system in Azerbaijan, it must be noted that district heating stations are relatively inefficient, reflecting their age, and most of them being more than 20 years old. The district heating in Azerbaijan typically comprises small decentralized heat supply system serving a number of apartment blocks from single gas-fired boiler houses. In general, however, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, the district heating system has failed to function. Most of the apartments use decentralized heating solutions based on natural gas, and in rural area, it's the wood, kerosene, and electricity that are being used for heating. I will give you some information on renewable as well. In the renewable sector, due to its geographic location, the Caspian Sea and its diverse landscape of the plains and mountains, Azerbaijan has significant potential to utilize its renewable energy sources. The highest technical potential belongs to solar, which you can see on the map is the 23 gigawatt, and which followed by wind, but the country has also good potential for small hydro and biomasses. Renewable, including hydro, continues 2% of total primary energy supply and 8% to electricity supply. However, there is serious consideration of increasing the production of renewable energy sector in the country. For example, the presidential decree on the acceleration of reforms in energy sector of Azerbaijan assigns significant responsibility to the Minister of Energy for the development of RES law and for creating a favorable climate for private investment in renewables. To fulfill this assigned obligation, the Minister of Energy actively cooperates with donor organizations and international companies. Namely, the Ministry collaborates with the European Union on the development of RES legislative frame and EBRD on the implementation of renewable energy auctions, and the Asian Development Bank on the construction of the first floating solar photovoltaic plant. In addition, in 2009, the State Agency for Alternative and Renewable Energy Source of Azerbaijan has established as a government agency under the Minister of Energy. It acts as the main regulatory institution in the field of alternative and renewable energy source in the Republic of Azerbaijan. And the main task of the agency are evaluating of sustainable potential energy, formation of appropriate policies, including tariff policies, development and enforcement of relevant procedures, such as an issuance of specific permit for public and private entities for the construction of power facility, increasing the share of energy which is produced by the alternative and renewable energy sources, ensuring uninterrupted power supplies to customers, and reduction of technical and technological losses through the creation of generation source in the areas close to customer. But these incentives actually shows the environmental and climate changes policies are taken serious by the Azerbaijani government. In October 2016, the Parliament of Azerbaijan ratified the Paris Agreement with the country's commitment to reduce greenhouse gas emission by 35% in 2030 compared to those base year in 1990. And if we are talking about renewable energy, we must discuss the government amazing ambition in the recently liberated area, Karabakh. As many of you heard from the news last autumn, Azerbaijan managed to take back its occupied territory, Karabakh, and there's a great potential for the use of various energy sources in Karabakh and surrounding region. The negotiation between the Azerbaijani government and the International Renewable Energy Agency has started regarding the development of the recent concept of green zone, a green space to cover the use of renewable energy sources and energy efficiency, eco-friendly technology, including the use of transportation, vehicles, and other matters. In fact, Karabakh is one of the main regions where local water resources are generated in Azerbaijan. About 25% of the Azerbaijani local water resources, that is about 2,560,000,000 cubic meters of water annually, are generated in this area. For the amount of solar radiation falling on Earth's surface, the southern plain of Karabakh, the town cities like Füzuli, Cebrail, Zengilan regions are in the second place after Nakhchivan. Here, the solar radiation per square meter of horizontal surface is about 1,600 to 1,700 kilowatt per hour a year. And total solar energy potential of this area is 3,000, about 4,000 megawatt. In general, in the mountainous part of Karabakh, there are wide areas with the average annual wind speed of 7-8 meters per second at a height of 100 meters. In general, the potential of wind energy in the mountainous area Karabakh is estimated at 300-500 megawatt. And finally, I would like to discuss the recent reforms that are being taken by the government in all sectors, especially the electricity and power sector. Despite widespread privatization of the economy since the country gained its independence, the energy sector in Azerbaijan remains predominantly government-owned. Only a handful of small hydropower plants are in the private ownership, and they account for less than 1% of the electricity generation. However, there are serious reforms that are being considered by the government with the aim of establishing a transparent, competitive, liberal electricity market in the electric power engineering sector. This involves the participation of all the participants, participation on the fair and equal base, the gradual elimination of state subsidies and expenditures, diversification of the production portfolio using renewable energy resources, and reducing dependence on a single source, which is the gas mainly. The formation of regulatory environment will aid this in accordance with the advanced international practice. And strategic growth reflect priority issues such as gradual transition to the liberal market model based on competition in the electric power engineering sector, separation of all links, all the value chains such as production, transportation, distribution, and sale from electricity generation to retail sales. Taking into account international expertise and experience, the law of Republic of Azerbaijan on electric power engineering has been drafted already in order to increase the efficiency of the country's electric power engineering system. In 2017, the President of Azerbaijan signed a decree establishing the Energy Regulatory Agency under the Minister of Energy. The agency carries out regulation of relationship among producer, transmission system operators, and distributors and suppliers, as well as customers in the field of electricity, heat, and gas supply. The agency's main activity includes state supervision of quality control, analysis, and introduction of incentive for attracting investment. Lastly, I know I keep saying lastly, but I promise these are my last two slides. I would like to discuss briefly about Socar, state-owned company of Azerbaijan, and Socar Turkey, and their role in the energy sector development of Azerbaijan. Socar is engaged in exploring oil and gas field, producing, processing, and transporting oil, natural gas, and natural gas condensate, and market crude petrol and petrochemical production in domestic and international market, and supplying natural gas to Azerbaijan and also internationally. Socar is a competitive group operating in 6 strategic industries, as you can see on your screen, that includes petrochemical, refinery, logistics, natural gas, energy, and fiber technology. Through strategic partnership, Socar generates economic, social, environmental benefits on a global scale, and it has offices in more than 13 different countries, including Turkey. Among its global scale strategic projects, Socar executes the most significant one in Turkey at a global value of $20 billion. Socar Turkey, as I mentioned, is a subsidiary of Socar, initiated its business operation in Turkey upon acquisition of 51% of the share of Petchem from the privatization administration in 2008. With the total investment value of $20 billion, once completed, Socar Turkey encompasses the best-in-breed companies such as Petchem, TANAP, Star Refinery, Socar Terminal, Petchem RES, the wind power plant, Bursa Gas, the Kayseri Gas, Envis, and so on. Focusing on its main investment area, namely petrochemical products, refinery, natural gas, trade, and distribution, Socar Turkey is the first company to get the title of private industrial zone in Turkey for its field covering most of its investment in Alaga. Having completed the integrated process in refinery, petrochemical, energy, logistic, distribution, and storage, the group forged ahead to become the biggest industry holding of Turkey. On this note, I would like to conclude my presentation. I think I went beyond all the time that was allocated to me, but I was trying to give somewhat of a bigger picture of what's happening in Azerbaijan in the last 30 years. Thank you very much.
Teşekkür ediyoruz Magsud Bey. Sağ olun. So this is the last session of this conference. That is why I do not interfere for the time. So it is the same for you as well, Mr. Julio. Take your time. Do not rush. You have the time, and we are listening to you, sir.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to start my presentation. Let me put my presentation, but I think that the previous one need to finish before.
That's me.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Let me see if it works. Okay, I expect you see my presentation.
Magsud Bey, mikrofonunuzu da kapatmanızı rica edeceğim. Teşekkür ederim.
Okay, well, let me talk a little bit about CogenSpain. I'm the president of CogenSpain. We are the association to promote the cogeneration in our country. I personally work in Iberdrola, that is a global utility, that we have over 50,000 megawatt installed capacity all around the world, Latin America, in Europe, Australia, lately. We have in Spain about 400 megawatt installed capacity in about 20 plants, but we also have in Latin America some other power plants, cogeneration plants, as in Mexico, that we have 300 megawatts, but we also have some other units in UK, United States, and Brazil mainly. So, generally speaking, we are a service provider, so we supply energy plants, as Iberdrola, from greenfield plants to brownfield plants, and we are developers of the CHP projects all around the world, but I'm going to focus today in Spain. So, talking about Spain, let me just start showing. It works. I don't know. Sorry. I'll try to pass the page. Okay. I'm going to start showing what is the CHP in Spain today. Later on, I will explain the incentives that we receive in Spain for the cogeneration. We have a different model than in Italy. We have a feed-in tariff. And later on, I'm gonna give you a brief idea of what we expect for the cogeneration in Spain in the following 10 years. Okay, what is cogeneration in Spain? Well, we are about 20% of industrial GDP. That it implies about 200,000 jobs in about 600 factories. Cogeneration in Spain is about 11% of the national electricity produced. We are saying that in Spain we produce about 250 terawatt-hour. We have in cogeneration about 5,600 megawatt installed capacity, really operating about 4,500. Let's say that we have 1,000 megawatts installed capacity pending for the renewable plant, and we produce about 27 terawatts per year. So it means that we consume about 20% of the national gas, and it's about 80 terawatts hour per year. Here you can see what is where located in the cogenerations in Spain. This is the Spanish heat map that you can find in internet in the IDAE web page. That is our energy efficiency agency, and you will see some red dots where most of the cogeneration is concentrated, where is the heat demand concentrated. So this is Madrid area, Barcelona area, and Bilbao, where I'm located in the Basque Country. So we are updating this heat map from 2016 to today's to 2021 because we are following the European Commission mandate to update this map every 4 or 5 years. So this is a general review of where we are. We can go into some details, perhaps for you better understanding what happened in the cogeneration in the last 10 years. So this way you can understand what is going to happen in the following 10 years. So we compare what happened in the last 10 years. Let's say that in about 2012, there is a big decrease in the cogeneration production because of the global crisis that in Spain was significant. You can see in this graph that is the accumulated production versus the previous year, where are the crises that I mentioned, that are the red parts. These are the crises from 2012 to 2015. Later on, we recover, and now again, we have the pandemic of the COVID-19. We are recovering slowly, but in this whole process, we have lost 1 point of participation in the electricity market. In general terms, it means that we decrease from 32 to 27 terawatt-hour, and this is the point that they explained that we decrease in the electricity market in Spain. If you want to see how is the market in Spain, we are one country, Italy, for instance, so we have peak demands in winter and in summer. These are the curves of the previous years. These are very similar from 2017 to 2018. Okay, what happened last year? Well, you see, we decrease for the coronavirus. We have the lockdown in April, more or less the same than the rest of Europe, and we recover our industry for the end of the year. Let's say that the cogeneration in Spain, 90% is based on industry. Only 10% is for tertiary and domestic. So it means that we decrease from 29 terawatt-hour to 27. That is the my figure that I repeating continuously. So what is the situation today? Well, the situation today, as mentioned, that we have about 880, 400 plants that are not operating. The way we operate in the past, we were tracking, following the pool price, electricity pool price, but now we have decoupled with the new regulation. And let me explain what is the new regulation that we have from 2012 that start operating in 2014 with this feed-in tariff that I mentioned before. Okay, in Spain we have a feed-in tariff. Previously, to 2014, we have a feed-in tariff instead of feed-in premium. So for the electricity that cogeneration exports, we get the market price, the pool price, that is around 40-50 euros per megawatt hour, around, depending on the year, but we're in that range. And on top of that, we get a specific remuneration for the return of investment and the return, on the support of operation. The return on investment, well, is calculated on some standards, and we get by different legal regulations, we get a return of 7.4% during the whole life of the plan. And on top of that, for the technologies as decoration that don't cover with the operating costs with the market revenues, we get the support that equilibrate incomes and expenses. This is quite simple in general terms mechanism, but on top of that, I must tell you that we have a lot of sophistication in the formulas. Let's say that the market is split in technologies, in sizes, in fuels. So basically, we have about 500, 600 type of plans where your plan is modeling, and according with that, you get the money to make the plan operating efficiently. Well, what do we expect in the following 10 years? I explained what happened in the last 10 years. I'm going to tell you, give a brief idea what's going to happen in the following 10 ones, up to 230. Let's say that in Europe in 2016, as Alessandro has explained, well, we have a common framework that that year was developed called as winter package. This was the clean for Europeans, and it requires to all member states in Europe to develop an national integrated energy climate plan for the period of 10 years between 221 and 230. And on top of that, well, you was also, let's say, obliged to present a long-term strategy for 250 to decarbonize your economy. So this national integrated energy plan serves to European Union to check the compliance of every country with the European objectives. Those objectives, let's say, are quite ambitious. We are going to check later on a little bit, but basically identifies challenges and opportunities in 5 main aspects where the cogeneration collaborates deeply. Decarbonization, this is the key aspects for 250. We are seeing an economy decarbonize. This is the objective where we must play, that is the energy efficiency. There is the reason for coordination, as of course you know. Energy security, as all the energy sources. And we need to adapt, well, all those aspects to the internal energy market in every country in Europe. But again, we have a new vector that is the research and innovation that, well, the idea is that this decarbonization drives us to a competitiveness all around the world. How this is implemented in Spain? Well, we have a new regulation that we are in this moment negotiating with the government for auctions to renew the existing plans and even to make some new ones. I'm going to give you some more details in the next slide. We're going to develop also regulation for the self-consumption, recognizing the advantages of the cogeneration as a local energy and distributed energy, and the reduction in energy consumption and in emissions. And later on, as the final step, we have an integration with the renewables using the same fuels, for instance, that they will use, mainly hydrogen, biogas, biomethane, and some synthetic gases. Okay, I expect that you can see now the final page. Well, this final page is just for you to present where we are now in detail. We are waiting for a new regulation that allows us to invest in 1,200 megawatts to renew our existing plants that are based in solid and liquid fuels, but even some old gas units to renew to gas units. But again, when you renew a plant, sometimes you need to also increase the science or even make a new plant. So this auction that we expect to develop in the following 3 years will cover those necessities to renew 1,200 megawatts. We have not been investing in the last 7 years since the last crisis I mentioned in 2012. And the idea is that with these new plans, we will cover in the next 15 years up to 2040 as a minimum. The idea is that, with this renewable plan, with this auction, we will have the time to develop the plans in 4 years. We need that time, not because of just the plan, but also for the integration with the grid that in this moment is blocked by the developing of renewables, that we have a boom in Spain. Of course, that the new plants are going to be a new generation of plants that will be high efficiency ones, even very high efficiency. We are discussing with our government what means this very high efficiency, but we're in the way. Those plants are going to be flexible to integrate it with the renewable energy for the times that the system cannot accept the electricity that we produce in cogeneration. It will be promoting the self-consumption scheme to really get the best from the distributed energy, and we are going to include the capacity to consume a minimum of 10% hydrogen. The technology is there, and we are going to update the gas turbines and the gas motors with this characteristic. And with that new technology, we are sure that we will be able to get the goals and the goals that the European Union has established, and even get higher figures. For instance, in efficiency, that the European Union marks 32%, we're going to reach the 30.9, and of course, we're going to meet the targets for emissions and renewables. So this is a challenging moment in Spain, and we are sure that in the following weeks, we will have this new regulation ready to be implemented. We're in the negotiation with our governments, and it's quite challenging for us in this moment. So this is a quick photograph of where we are in Spain. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Julio. Now we will go to the last speaker of the last session of this conference. Mr. Ibrahim, could you hear me? Yeah. And to introduce you, even cogeneration is a very technical issue. It cannot be done without financing. So you will present Islamic Development Bank, and you are the head of a very big area. So now we are listening to you, Mr. Ibrahim. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Birhan, and good afternoon, good evening to all of you. First of all, congratulations for organizing this event, and thank you very much for inviting me and my colleagues also for presenting and intervening in this important event. I will try to basically cover, like you said, the perspective of financial institutions, and like you said, basically coming from the Islamic Development Bank group covering Central Asia. This is a very important subject for us. Today, I'm not going to talk specifically about cogeneration. I'm going to talk generally about the energy sector in the region and what are we doing. So basically, let me start by saying that the sector, of course, is facing some challenges, and this is something that we have been always looking at, not only IsDB, but also other NDBs. This analysis is coming from the Asian Development Bank, where they looked at the issues facing the energy sector in Asia, and the white boxes represent the general issues, while the blue boxes focusing more on the transmission and distribution. And as you can see, there are a number of causes that reach to the core problem, which definitely that we have a lack of electricity to meet the growing demand at a low cost and high reliability, and this really put a lot of impact and effect on the slowing of the economy of the countries in the region, poor access to basic services, low domestic and foreign direct investment happening in this sector, and also use of expensive captive generation with higher emissions. When it comes to the causes, let me summarize it. Mainly, most of the generations are very old. They are lacking proper maintenance. They are facing issues on efficiency. So the design capacity is much higher than the available capacity. They are also having issues on the rapidly declining natural gas in the region, which is affecting the power plants, and also issues related to the grid connectivity, geographical areas, the fact that many of the transmission lines and grids are old, and accordingly, and one of the most important actually is the maybe weak, environment for the private sector interventions. As you know, public-private partnership is very, very important in this area, especially that many countries now are trying to minimize or reduce the borrowing because of the pressure on the sovereign guarantees provided by the countries. So they are trying to promote private sector intervention. And with the weak environment, with the lack of legislation and support to private sector, it becomes very challenging for the private sector to enter this space. This is some analysis which, in our views, will help us to understand that if we look at the generation capacity, this is the 5 countries actually we are covering in our location here in Almaty, Central Asia. And you can see that there is a certain, when we talk about the total generation capacity, you will always see that it's higher than the available capacity. And this also, like I said, comes from the fact that there are issues in the efficiency of the electricity. And further, if you look at the surplus deficit, you'll find that many of these countries are facing a deficit in the generation. When it comes to the consumption, you will find a very interesting information here that while some of the countries have the total power generation is higher than the consumption, you will see also that there are certain huge imports in terms of gigawatt per hour, for example, Uzbekistan, and also in the same time exporting. So, as of course you know, depending on the needs and seasons, and also depending on the consumption and the peak times. So this really gives an indication that the trade of electricity in the region is very, very important. And this is one of the most important things that we are trying to help in these countries by connecting grid lines between the countries, and also trying to help in the treaties and agreements between the country in order to proceed with these kind of activities between the countries. This is another also dimension which is showing the analysis done by the development banks, and basically here we're talking about analysis coming from CAREC, the Central Asia Regional Economic Cooperation, which was established by Asian Development Bank, and many institutions and banks are also involved. So the top right graph will show you the generation if using the conventional ways as is, and it shows you that still oil and coal are big time having contribution in terms of the generation capacity. This is of course in terawatt hour. The lower right graph shows you that in moving forward, if we start to focus on investment in green energy and wind, solar, you will see the improvement in terms of reduction in the fossil fuel generations, and increase in the solar and wind. And the left graph basically showing the percentage from now and in 2050, where we can see that the oil will go down from 17% to 8%, coal from 14% to 2%, and increasing of gas, and increasing, of course, increasing of solar and increasing of wind. So this is something that we always put in mind, and when we talk to the countries in this region, trying to go into this direction. Of course, as an opportunity for the bank, we are looking at new efficient power plants, looking for new technologies, upgrading of existing powers by reducing emissions of conventional generations, and transmissions and distribution upgrades between the different countries. Having said that, this is a snapshot of our investment in this sector in the region. So far, we have invested over $1.1 billion in 13 projects in Central Asia, and 67% of this is related to access to electricity, followed by energy efficiency and renewable energy, which is still growing. But the bank has recently adopted this as a priority in terms of criteria of projects we are looking forward. And in terms of diversification between the countries, you can see Turkmenistan having the highest share of $623 million, followed by Uzbekistan, Kyrgyz Republic, and Tajikistan. These are some of the projects, and I'm sure you are all aware of Kaza 1000, which is a very, very important project for us, and Tabi gas pipeline. All of them are regional projects connecting countries. Tabi, of course, for the gas pipeline, and Kaza with the electricity distribution. So back to the point of opportunities, we are really trying to focus on access to energy, introducing and promoting renewable energy, and working on energy efficiency and knowledge sharing between the IDB and other think tanks with the member countries. And we are focusing here also again on the hydro generation, which we believe that it's a really key for the cross-border trade, and which will have a multi-purpose schemes like the agri-irrigation, disaster protection, and so on. And of course, more hydro is also another option that we are looking for, and using innovations in this kind of small hydro powers. On the conventional generation, like I said, it's about improving the efficiency, reducing emission, and this will help to increase anyway the capacity of the member countries, and power grids, which is trying to avoid bottlenecks and high losses and try to bring electricity to new areas by connecting new grids and improving efficiency. There is a number of challenges that we are aware of. Of course, the low sustainable energy. While we have high consumption, we see countries sometimes concentrating on certain regions or certain projects and leaving some without really focus. There is always a focus on the on-grid extension, but we don't see much of off-grid solutions, especially for new cities, new areas. There is always an issue also with the concessional resources and de-risking of projects, and lack of coal reserves and gas, like we explained, and also some areas are underexploited. So this is our strategy as a bank. So we are looking for 4 pillars, like we explained: the access to energy, renewable energy, energy efficiency, and the knowledge. And in order to do this, we are having 4 enablers, which is helping the, first of all, innovation financing. So we have new, different way of innovation now, including, creating, funds, including creating a specific, mechanism for PPP for helping countries to finance these projects. And then we have the private sector development, which is very, very important. And we are trying always to bring investor in these funds and, trying to create a demand from the private sector and capital market. And partnership is another enabler. So we have partnership with different, players in this space. And of course, the regional integration is very important. And this is what we are trying, having a relationship as all these are member countries. We are trying to really bring them on the table to discuss how can we create this. And of course, this is guided by the, we have capacity, we have the PPP and Islamic finance, and we have also the focus when we do the programming with the countries on the energy sector. So this is just in addition to the financing that we use to do directly with the country, which we call sovereign lending. So basically, the country requests us to finance a project, and we finance it, and we get the guarantee from the government. In addition to this, these are different opportunities for financing, starting with the public-private partnership way of financing, where we also act as lead arranger and try to bring other banks under our, our wings, under an AB structure, where we are providing the banks with the certain, immunities and guarantees and protections, giving our status as international organization. And with this, we can really try to bring the private sector. We have also an advisory facility, which is really helping to develop the projects to be bankable, providing training to countries, training to companies, and developing policies for the PPP, the legislation, and so on. We have also direct lending to private, IPPs, and we do sometimes get into equity in energy companies, and also we provide lines to banks to support from the bank to the companies. And finally, we have our credit insurance arm, which is called ISEC, as one of the parts of the group, which provide credit insurance and investment insurance. And all this is provided through our organization, which is AAA rated. So that really help us to reduce the cost of borrowing and accordingly help to reduce the cost of the project. And of course, this is reflected on the overall delivery of the projects and the cost of energy in the country. So this is it. So thank you very much for your time. I hope I gave some brief about us. And of course, we will be happy to communicate with anyone who is more interested about the bank and activities. Thank you.
It is almost 10 p.m. in Kazakhstan. So, Mr. Ibrahim, thank you for joining us in this late time.
It's too late, yes.
With all my respect to the attendees, I will finish in Turkish. Bu konferansta görev almaktan gurur duyuyorum. Ve sadece DEİK Enerji Konseyi adına değil, kendi adıma da burada çok büyük emeğe bulunan Yağmur Hanım'a ve Yavuz Bey'e teşekkür ediyorum. Ve sözü son session'ın son toplantısı olduğu için bu kapanış için sözü değerli başkanımız Yavuz Bey'e bırakmak istiyorum. Teşekkür ederim.
Okay. Çok teşekkürler. Thank you very much for you attended and provided us a very brief overview from your countries, from Spain, Julio, from Kazakhstan, Ibrahim, from Azerbaijan and Turkey, Magsud, and from Italy, Alessandro. Thank you very much. Grazie mille. And gracias and shukran. Okay, four different languages. Thank you. Okay, teşekkür ederim. Now, I believe it's been a pretty intense 9 hours for most of us, and today, what we wanted to do is to bring the cogeneration as the core topic to discuss all day. Started with manufacturers, the technology providers, and then we also listened to some academics. And in addition, then we listened to the cogeneration users, the operators, the real ones who are enjoying the benefits of the cogeneration. So it was a very good diversified view of from different origins. Who are linked or interested or engaged in cogeneration. And thank you very much for all of those provided their view. Now, let me a few words in Turkish. Çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Özellikle gün boyu 9 saate yakın biz burada sektörle ilgili kojenerasyon teknolojisini merkez alarak imalatçılardan başladık. Daha sonra teknoloji sağlayıcılar konuştu. Bu sistemlerin işletmesine, bakımına, modernizasyonuna yönelik bazı yenilikleri duyduk. Ardından akademik 2 tane sunumumuz oldu değerli hocalarımızdan. Daha sonra asıl kojenerasyonu kendi sanayi kuruluşlarında kullanan ve ondan gelen güçle rekabetçiliklerini arttıran büyük sanayi kuruluşlarımızı dinledik. Ve son olarak da bize farklı ülkelerden farklı perspektifleri sunan İspanya'dan, İtalya'dan, Kazakhstan'dan ve Azerbaycan'dan sevgili dostlarımız konuştu. Bu konferansta bize katkıda bulunan değerli sponsor firmalarımıza da çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Kendilerine önümüzdeki yakın dönemde görüyoruz ki kojenerasyon dönem dönem farklı etkiler altında değişik gelişmeler gösteriyor. Ancak gelecek 10 yıla yönelik baktığımızda özellikle enerji verimliliği odaklı çalışmalarda, enerji verimliliği odaklı gelişmelerde kojenerasyonun yeri hiçbir zaman yadsınamayacak bir öneme sahip. Ve biz bunu önümüzdeki dönemlerde de göreceğiz. Kojenerasyon endüstride, hizmet sektöründe ve bölgesel ısıtmada etkin olarak ve verimliliği nedeniyle tercih edilen bir çözüm olacaktır. Ben tüm katılımcılara teşekkür ettiğim gibi aynı zamanda bu konferansın hayata geçirilmesinde büyük emeği olan değerli arkadaşlarıma, yönetim kurulundan bu işin içinde bizzat çalışan bu konferansla ilgili advisory board rolü olan arkadaşlarıma ve özellikle de pek çok emeği geçen değerli arkadaşlarımız ve koordinatörümüz Yağmur'a çok teşekkür ediyorum. Herkese mutlu ve güzel bir gün ve bol enerjili günler diliyorum. Hoşça kalın. Çok teşekkürler. Thank you very much and bye bye.
Teşekkür ederiz.
Thank you.
Herkese iyi günler diliyoruz. Hoşça kalın.